Chances are you've been in a situation where you've walked into a new library and needed to find a book. You may have also been confused with all the random numbers and letters surrounding you, not giving you much help on where to go. Those numbers and letters are actually called classification systems, and the two main ones used in America today are the Dewey Decimal System and the Library of Congress classification system. For many people, they are more familiar with Dewey, but as Lemon and Bodger state in their article, "What scheme do we prefer? An examination of preference between the Library of Congress system and the Dewey Decimal System among US-based academic library employees," it's been on the decline for the better part of the past 6 decades. But why is that? Recently, I've got a job at my campus library, and I've had a lot of experience checking in and out books and also learning where to find one when somebody needs help. Today, I'd like to tell you about the two main systems used in American libraries and why one is slowly making its way out of them. First, I'm going to show you how they each do their job. We need to understand how each system classifies their media so we can better understand them as a whole. The first system we're talking about is the Dewey Decimal System. It's a strictly numerical system, meaning it only uses numbers within its COMM numbers. As the Britannica editors say, the Dewey Decimal System for organizing the contents of a library is based on the division of all knowledge into 10 groups, which each group assigned 100 numbers. These 10 main groups are in turn subdivided again to provide more specific subject groups. The Dewey Decimal System was founded in 1873 by Melville Dewey and was finally published in 1876. The Library of Congress system is much different. It uses alphanumeric system, so it uses letters and numbers within its call numbers. It's divided into 21 subject groups, each getting their own letter of the alphabet, and then most of those are then subdivided into more specific groups for more specific subjects, being identified by 2 or 3 letter combinations. As the official Library of Congress website states, individual topics are often broken down by specific places, time periods, or bibliographic forms. The system was first founded by James C.M. Hansen and Charles Martel when they realized that the Library of Congress collection was getting too large for their previous cataloging system. They began work on it in 1901 and they published the first outline in 1904. Now that you know how they work, let's go over why the Library of Congress system is rapidly becoming much more popular. For many modern reasons, the Library of Congress system is outshining the Dewey Decimal Systems, especially in university libraries. The first reason is because it uses an alphanumeric system rather than just numeric. It's easier to be able to find a book, but also much easier to add a book to the collection. As the book Library of Congress classification system by Helena Dittman and Jane Hardy states, this system will allow the production of new editions on a regular and frequent bias. Along with the Library of Congress being much easier, the Dewey Decimal System also makes it much more difficult to be able to add a new book. It was created for smaller inventories, and many inventories today have a collection of at least 1 million. As the article by Molly Higgins, Asian American Representation in the Dewey Decimal System, 1876 through 1996 states, although much work has been done to expand the range of the Dewey Decimal System and increase its sensitivity, much of the original structure remains. No matter how far the Dewey Decimal System expands, it is still operating within the constraints of its form. Here, Molly is stating that not only is it much harder to add a book, but it's also not very inclusive, considering issues such as LGBTQ+ and Asian American representation. Many people, especially library workers, are also starting to prefer the Library of Congress classification system over the Dewey Decimal System for many reasons, especially in terms of collection size and bias. In the article, "What scheme do we prefer? An examination of preference between the Library of Congress and Dewey Decimal System among US-based academic libraries," they conducted an experiment via email sent to library workers all around the United States to ask them what system they preferred. Results were biased, and the study concluded by saying, this study provides empirical backing to that belief, showing that academic library employees prefer the Library of Congress to Dewey Decimal System at a 13-to-1 ratio. I then went around my own library and started to conduct my own research. I asked one of my coworkers which system they preferred, seeing as they also interact with these systems daily. When asked, she stated, I personally prefer Library of Congress system because I think the system is a little more user-friendly. The way the alphanumerics are assigned, it makes more sense than Dewey. I know music in the Dewey Decimal System is 789, but I don't really understand why that is. Where in the Library of Congress system, I better understand why music will fall under M. Today, I've explained the two main systems and why the Library of Congress system is on the rise. Since it was created in 1876 and having been adopted into many libraries since, it is aimed to make classifying and adopting new books into the system much easier. Its broad range of classes makes it easier not only to include more books and media into its system, but to also add new topics that didn't have representation before.